year carries weight. Not because the calendar changed, but because life keeps asking the same question in different ways. Who is in charge of the direction this life is going? Rebuilding does not begin with motivation. It begins with honesty. It begins the moment a person stands still long enough to look at their results without anger, without excuses, and without blaming anyone else. This moment is quiet. No applause, no comfort, just truth. And truth has a way of waking people up. Where you are right now did not happen by accident. It is the result of choices made, choices delayed, habits kept, habits ignored, standards accepted, and standards lowered. This is not said to create guilt. Guilt weakens people. Responsibility strengthens people. The moment responsibility is accepted, power returns. Before that moment, life feels like something that happens to you. After that moment, life becomes something you shape. Many people carry a long list of reasons for why things did not work out. The economy, the family they were born into, the people who disappointed them, the lack of support, the bad timing. These explanations may sound reasonable, but they quietly steal control. Every time responsibility is placed outside, control follows it. And when control leaves, progress stops. A person cannot rebuild a life while holding on to the belief that someone else holds the steering wheel. There is a certain relief that comes with full ownership. It may feel heavy at first, but it is the kind of weight that builds strength. When you accept that your current situation is connected to your past decisions, you also accept that your future can be shaped by new ones. That is the trade. Responsibility in exchange for freedom. Blame in exchange for comfort. One leads to growth. The other leads to staying stuck. Think about daily life, the quiet routines, the small choices that seem harmless, what time you wake up, how you speak to yourself when things feel slow, what you allow to distract you, what you tolerate from others, what you tolerate from yourself. These are not dramatic moments, yet they write the story. Rebuilding does not start with a big speech or a sudden change. It starts with seeing these patterns clearly and refusing to lie about them. There are people who say they want a better life, but continue to explain why they cannot change right now. That explanation becomes a habit. Over time, the habit becomes an identity. Then rebuilding feels impossible because the person has practiced staying the same for years. Responsibility breaks that cycle. It cuts through the noise and says, this is my life, and from this point forward, I choose differently. The hardest part of responsibility is letting go of the idea that someone is coming to rescue you. That idea is comforting, but it is false. Growth begins when you realize no one is required to save you. Support is helpful, guidance is valuable, but ownership belongs to you alone. The moment that truth is accepted, effort becomes focused, and excuses lose their appeal. Rebuilding also requires facing mistakes without soft language, not to punish yourself, but to learn. A mistake ignored repeats itself. A mistake understood becomes education. Education changes behavior. Behavior changes results. This is not complicated. It is simple, but it is not easy. Simplicity requires discipline. Discipline requires responsibility. There is something powerful about waking up in the morning and knowing that the day will respond to your actions. Not perfectly, but honestly. If you put in care, you see progress. If you avoid effort, you see stagnation. Life keeps accurate records. It responds to what you do consistently, not to what you intend occasionally. But, accepting this truth clears confusion and removes false hope. Many people wait for motivation before taking responsibility. That order never works. Responsibility comes first. Motivation follows progress. When a person takes ownership and begins making small, steady changes, energy returns. Confidence returns. Not because everything is fixed, but because direction has been restored. Look at the past without anger. Look at it as a teacher. Every result has something to say. Every delay has a lesson. Every regret points to a standard that was not enforced. Standard shape lives more than desires ever will. Desire without responsibility becomes frustration. Desire with responsibility becomes momentum. Rebuilding a life also means dropping the habit of comparing your progress to someone else's highlight. Comparison distracts from ownership. It shifts focus away from personal responsibility and replaces it with judgment. Judgment drains energy. Responsibility concentrates energy. When your attention stays on your actions, growth becomes steady and personal. There will be moments when taking responsibility feels lonely. Not everyone will understand the change. Some people prefer the version of you that blamed circumstances because it made them comfortable. Growth often creates distance before it creates respect. That distance is temporary. The respect lasts longer. Responsibility also changes the way setbacks are handled. Instead of asking why this happened to me, the focus becomes what can be done now. This shift saves time. Time saved compounds. Progress made consistently over months creates visible change. Visible change reinforces belief. Belief further effort. A rebuilt life is not built on perfection. It is built on consistency. Responsibility does not demand flawlessness. It demands honesty and follow through. When you say you will do something, you do it. When you fall short, you adjust without drama. This steady approach builds self-trust. Trust becomes the foundation for confidence. The future year does not need promises. It needs decisions, quiet ones, firm ones, decisions that are honored even when no one is watching. Responsibility is what gives those decisions weight. Without it, goals remain wishes. With it, effort becomes focused. There is strength in saying, this is where I am, and this is where I begin. No apology, no explanation, just clarity. Clarity simplifies action. Action creates results. Results change identity. Over time, the person who once felt stuck becomes someone who moves with intention. This is how rebuilding truly begins. Not with noise, not with dramatic change, but with a calm, firm acceptance of responsibility. From that point forward, every choice matters again. And when choices matter, there comes a point after responsibility is accepted when something else becomes very clear. Even with the right attitude and honest ownership, progress can still feel slow if the weight of the past is being carried into the present. Rebuilding requires space, and space is created by releasing what no longer serves the direction you are choosing. Holding on to old pain, old habits, old identities, and old stories keeps the future crowded. A person cannot move forward freely while dragging yesterday behind them. Many people think they are stuck because they lack opportunity. In reality, they are stuck because they refuse to release what is familiar. Familiar pain often feels safer than unfamiliar growth. The mind gets used to certain patterns, even unhealthy ones. Complaints become routines. Self-doubt becomes normal. Fear turns into a constant background noise. Over time, these things feel like part of who you are. They are not. They are habits of thought and behavior that were practiced long enough to feel permanent. Letting go is not denial. It is not pretending nothing happened. It is deciding that what happened will no longer control how today is lived. There is a difference. Carrying resentment does not punish the person who caused it. It drains the energy of the person holding it. Energy is required to rebuild. Wasted energy slows everything down. There are people who replay old conversations in their mind years later, still trying to win an argument that no longer matters. There are people who define themselves by a mistake they made long ago, even though their current actions no longer reflect that person. There are people who stay loyal to an old version of themselves because changing feels like betrayal. None of this supports growth. All of it keeps life small. Letting go also includes releasing false expectations. Expecting life to be fair at every moment creates frustration. Expecting people to always understand you creates disappointment. Expecting progress without discomfort creates delay. Growth asks for patience and effort, not perfection from the world around you. When expectations are adjusted, peace increases and focus returns. Some habits quietly block progress. Staying up late without purpose, constantly checking screens instead of thinking, saying yes when no is needed, avoiding difficult conversations. These habits do not announce themselves as problems. They slowly steal time and attention. Letting go of them does not require drama. It requires awareness and a decision to choose differently, one day at a time. There is also the habit of negative self-talk. Many people would never speak to a friend the way they speak to themselves. The tone matters. The words matter. Rebuilding requires a change in internal language, not false praise, but fair assessment, honest encouragement, clear correction without insult. The voice inside should guide, not attack. Old labels must also be released. The label of being unlucky, the label of being behind, the label of being bad with money, bad with discipline, bad with consistency. Labels shape behavior. When a person believes a label, actions begin to match it. Removing the label creates room for new behavior to form. Identity follows action, not the other way around. Letting go may also mean stepping back from people who reinforce old patterns. Not everyone will grow with you. Some will resist the change, not because it harms them, but because it challenges their comfort. Growth changes dynamics. It exposes excuses at high levels. Distance may be required, not out of anger, but out of respect for your future. There is guilt that sometimes shows up when releasing the past. Guilt for moving on. Guilt for choosing differently. Guilt for no longer fitting into old roles. This guilt is often misplaced. Growth is not an attack on anyone. It is a responsibility to yourself. A person who improves their life increases the value they bring to others as well. Letting go also includes forgiving yourself. Many people stay stuck because they believe they deserve to stay stuck. They replay past failures as proof that they are not worthy of progress. This belief is false and destructive. The past can explain behavior, but it does not have the authority to sentence the future. Learning requires mistakes. Maturity comes from reflection, not self-punishment. Releasing the need for approval is another important step. When every decision is filtered through how others might react, growth becomes slow and uncertain. Approval is unstable. It changes based on mood and circumstance. Direction must come from values and goals, not from applause. Quiet progress often matters more than public validation. Letting go does not happen all at once. It happens through repeated choices. Each time an old thought shows up and is replaced with a better one. Each time an old habit tries to return and is interrupted. Each time an old excuse appears and is ignored. These moments may feel small, but they shape the future more than dramatic promises ever could. But there is freedom that comes with release. Mental clarity improves. Sleep becomes deeper. Focus sharpens. When the mind is no longer crowded with old weight, energy becomes available for building something new. That energy shows up as motivation, but it is grounded, not emotional. It lasts because it is supported by action. The past will always exist as a reference, but it does not need to be a residence. You visit it to learn, then you leave. Carrying lessons forward is useful. Carrying pain forward is optional. The choice belongs to you. As you release what holds you back, you may notice a strange quiet. The noise of old worries fades. The pressure of old expectations loosens. In that quiet, direction becomes clearer. Priorities become simpler. Effort becomes more intentional. Rebuilding a life is not about adding more at first. It is about removing what blocks growth. When the path is cleared, progress feels natural. Not easy, but natural. effort begins to align with purpose. Time starts working in your favor again. This is how space is created for the next version of your life. Not by force, not by denial, but by the steady release of what no longer belongs. When you let go, you do not lose yourself. You recover yourself. Once the weight of the past is released, the next stage of rebuilding becomes visible in everyday behavior. Life does not change in theory. It changes in routine. What you do repeatedly becomes what you believe is normal. Normal becomes identity. Identity shapes results. This is why rebuilding requires a reset of daily habits and personal standards. Without that reset, motivation fades and old patterns return quietly. Habits are not created by dramatic moments. They are formed by repeated choices that feel small at the time. Waking up when the alarm rings instead of delaying it, choosing to focus instead of drifting, eating with intention instead of convenience, speaking with honesty instead of avoidance. These moments do not feel powerful in the moment, but over time, they decide the direction of a life. Standards are closely tied to habits. A standard is what you accept without arguing with yourself. If your standard is low, you negotiate with yourself all day. If your standard is clear, decisions become easier. Rebuilding requires raising standards gently but firmly, not all at once, not with pressure, with consistency. Many people confuse standards with goals. Goals are destinations, standards are daily rules. You may want better health, but the standard decides whether you move your body today. You may want financial stability, but the standard decides how you spend money tonight. You may want peace of mind, but the standard decides what kind of thoughts you allow to stay. A reset begins by observing current habits honestly, not with judgment, with awareness. Notice how time is spent. Notice when energy drops. Notice which activities lead to clarity and which lead to regret. Life gives feedback constantly. Most people are too distracted to listen. Rebuilding requires attention. Morning habits matter because they set the tone. When the day begins in a rush, the mind stays reactive. When the day begins with intention, focus improves. This does not require long routines or complex systems. It requires presence. A few quiet minutes, a clear plan for the first task, a decision to start the day on purpose. Standards around work must also be reset. Doing the minimum keeps results average. Consistent effort, even when progress feels slow, builds momentum. This does not mean exhaustion. It means showing up fully during the time you commit. Focused effort for a short period is more powerful than distracted effort all day. There is also a need to reset standards around rest. Rest is not avoidance, it is recovery. When rest is intentional, energy returns. When rest becomes escape, discipline weakens. Rebuilding requires knowing the difference. Sleep matters, silence matters, stepping away from noise matters. A clear mind works better. Another area that requires attention is the habit of consumption. What you watch, what you read, what you listen to. These inputs shape thoughts quietly. If the mind is filled with negativity, progress slows. If the mind is filled with purpose, effort feels lighter. This does not require avoiding the world. It requires choosing what enters. Many people underestimate the power of environment. A cluttered space often reflects a cluttered mind. Order creates calm. Calm improves decision-making. Rebuilding may require cleaning physical spaces, but more importantly, it requires protecting mental space. Reducing distractions is a form of self-respect. Standards also apply to how you speak to others. Clear communication reduces stress. Honest boundaries prevent resentment. Saying no when necessary protects energy. Rebuilding a life includes rebuilding relationships on healthier terms. Not everyone will like the change. That is not the goal. Respect and clarity matter more than approval. The habit of finishing what you start deserves special attention. Unfinished tasks drain mental energy. Each incomplete promise weakens self-trust. Each completed task, even small, builds confidence. Rebuilding requires keeping promises to yourself. Start with manageable commitments. Honor them consistently. Confidence grows from evidence. There will be days when discipline feels heavy. Those days matter most. Habits built only on good days do not last. Habits built through resistance become reliable. This is where standards protect you. When motivation fades, standards remain. You do not negotiate with a standard. You follow it. Resetting habits does not mean becoming rigid. Flexibility is important. Life changes. Circumstances shift. The key is returning to the standard quickly after disruption. Missing once is not failure. Staying away is. Rebuilding requires persistence. Pay attention to how you end your day. The final hours shape sleep. Sleep shapes energy. Energy shapes behavior. A calm ending supports a strong beginning. Reflection helps. Not long analysis. Simple review. What went well? What can improve tomorrow? This habit builds awareness without pressure. Over time, new habits begin to feel natural. Old habits lose their pull. This transition may feel uncomfortable at first. Discomfort is a sign of change, not a warning to stop. Growth often feels unfamiliar before it feels right. Standards also protect self-respect. When you know what you expect from yourself, outside opinions lose power. Confidence becomes quieter and more stable. It is no longer based on mood or praise. It is based on consistency. Rebuilding through habits is not fast, but it is reliable. Each day becomes a brick. Each habit becomes structure. Over months, the structure becomes visible. People may notice before you do. Progress often shows externally after it is built internally. This reset is not about becoming someone else. It is about returning to discipline and intention. When daily habits align with values, life feels more honest. Effort feels meaningful. Direction becomes clear. The future is not shaped by what you plan once. It is shaped by what you practice daily. When habits are aligned and standards are clear, rebuilding moves from effort to momentum. And momentum, once established, becomes hard to stop. After habits and standards begin to settle into a steady rhythm, rebuilding moves into a deeper and more lasting phase. This is where growth stops being about fixing problems and starts becoming about expanding ability. A person can only rise as far as their skills allow. Desire without skill creates frustration. Effort without ability creates exhaustion. Skill building creates leverage. It makes progress easier, clearer, and more stable over time. Many people believe talent is something you are born with. That belief quietly limits effort. Skill is built. It is earned through repetition, focus, and patience. Anyone willing to learn and practice can improve their ability. This truth is empowering because it puts progress back into your hands. The future becomes less about luck and more about preparation. Skill building begins with humility, a willingness to admit there is more to learn. Pride blocks growth faster than failure ever could. When a person assumes they already know enough, improvement stops. When a person stays curious, learning never ends. Rebuilding a life requires becoming a student again, not in a classroom sense, but in a daily sense. Personal growth is not about collecting information. Many people read and watch endlessly, but never apply. Growth happens when learning turns into action. One small improvement practiced daily creates more change than 100 ideas left unused. Skill is formed when knowledge meets focus matters here. Trying to improve everything at once leads to shallow progress. Choose one area that will make the biggest difference right now. Communication, time management, financial understanding, emotional control, health habits. The choice should match your current season. Improvement in one area often lifts others naturally. Learning also requires patience. Skill does not appear overnight. There will be moments when progress feels slow. That does not mean nothing is happening. Skill builds quietly. Just like strength builds in the body, Ability builds through consistent effort even when results are not visible yet. Quitting early waste. Feedback is important in this phase. Honest feedback, not praise. Growth requires knowing where improvement is needed. This can feel uncomfortable, but discomfort here is productive. Avoiding feedback keeps skill weak. Seeking feedback sharpens it. Personal growth also includes emotional skill, the ability to stay calm under pressure, the ability to delay reaction, the ability to think before speaking. These skills improve relationships and decision-making. Many problems in life are not technical. They are emotional. Improving emotional control improves outcomes in every area. Reading, listening, and observing others who are ahead can accelerate learning. Not to copy them blindly, but to understand principles. Pay attention to how disciplined people think. Notice how focused people manage their time. Observe how confident people speak. Learning is often quiet. Practice must be deliberate. Repeating the same mistake does not create skill. Adjusting behavior based on reflection does. After each attempt, ask what worked and what did not. Small adjustments made consistently lead to mastery over time. Skill building also strengthens self-belief. Confidence that is built on ability lasts longer than confidence built on praise. When you know you have work to improve, doubt has less space. Effort becomes calmer. Decisions become clearer. Growth also changes how you see challenges. Problems become training opportunities instead of threats. Difficulty becomes feedback instead of discouragement. This shift reduces fear and increases resilience. A person who sees life as a place to grow handles pressure with more stability. Another important part of growth is teaching what you learn. Teaching reinforces understanding. It clarifies thinking. Even explaining a concept to yourself strengthens skill. Growth deepens when it is shared, not for approval, but for clarity. There will be moments when old limits show up. Thoughts like "this is too hard" or "this is not for me," these thoughts are signals, not commands. They often appear just before improvement. Staying consistent through that phase separates growth from stagnation. Skill building also requires protecting focus. Learning needs quiet time. Distraction slows improvement. Reducing noise is an act of discipline. Fewer interruptions lead to deeper understanding. Depth matters more than speed. Personal growth is not about becoming superior to others. It is about becoming more capable than your past self. Comparison distracts. Progress is personal. Measure improvement against who you were, not against someone else's pace. As skills improve, opportunities expand. Problems that once felt overwhelming become manageable. Confidence becomes grounded. Life begins to respond differently, not because circumstances changed, but because ability did. Rebuilding a life without skill building leads to fragile progress. Rebuilding with skill creates stability. It creates options. It creates freedom. The stronger your ability, the less fear controls decisions. This phase does not end. Growth continues as long as you remain committed to learning. Skills compound. Effort becomes more efficient, progress becomes more predictable. When ability increases, effort feels lighter. Not because life becomes easy, but because you become prepared. Preparation reduces stress. Preparation builds calm confidence. This is how rebuilding moves from recovery to expansion, not through shortcuts, through steady learning, honest practice, and patience. Skill by skill, ability grows. And as ability grows, the life you are rebuilding becomes stronger, more stable, and more aligned with who you are becoming. After responsibility has been accepted, old weight released, habits reset, and skills strengthened, rebuilding enters its most defining phase. This is where many people lose momentum, not because they lack ability, but because they expect results too soon. Real change follows a quiet rhythm. Action must continue even when progress feels invisible. Commitment is what carries effort through the gap between work and reward. Consistent action is not dramatic. It rarely feels exciting. Most days, it feels ordinary. That is why it is powerful. Ordinary actions, repeated daily shape extraordinary results over time. People often overestimate what can be done in a week and underestimate what can be done in a year. Rebuilding requires patience, anchored in effort, not in hope alone. There will be days when motivation is low. Waiting for motivation delays progress. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. When you act despite resistance, energy often follows. Discipline is not harsh. It is simply the decision to do what you said you would do, even when feelings change. Results often appear quietly. Small improvements in focus, better sleep, clearer thinking, slight increases in confidence. These early signs are easy to ignore, but they matter. They are evidence that effort is working. Ignoring them can lead to unnecessary doubt. Acknowledging them builds momentum. Many people quit just before results become visible, not because they are incapable, but because they misjudge timing. Growth often accelerates after a period of steady effort. This delay tests commitment. Those who stay consistent cross a threshold others never reach. Consistency also builds trust with yourself. Each day you follow through, self-respect grows. Each day you break promises to yourself, doubt increases. Rebuilding requires restoring self-trust. Self-trust becomes the foundation for confidence and calm decision-making. Action must be aligned with purpose. Busy effort without direction leads to burnout. Focused effort on meaningful tasks leads to progress. Knowing why you are acting makes persistence easier. Purpose gives effort context. There will be setbacks, plans will change, progress will pause. These moments are part of the process, not signs to stop. The response to setbacks matters more than the setback itself. Adjust, learn, continue. Consistency does not mean rigidity. It means returning to action quickly after disruption. Tracking effort helps maintain clarity, not obsessive measurement, but simple awareness. Knowing what you did today and what you plan to do tomorrow keeps momentum steady. Clarity reduces anxiety, drains energy. Consistency also requires boundaries. Protecting time and energy becomes essential. Saying no to distractions is saying yes to progress. Rebuilding requires focus. Focus requires boundaries. Over time, action builds identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through. That identity reinforces behavior. Behavior reinforces results. Results reinforce belief. This cycle creates stability. There is a calm confidence that comes from consistency. It does not seek attention. It does not rush. It moves steadily. This confidence is not based on external validation. It is based on evidence collected over time. Rebuilding a life is not a straight line. There will be days when effort feels heavy. There will be days when progress feels slow. Those days still count. Every action taken with intention adds weight to the future. Commitment also means resisting the urge to constantly change direction. Improvement requires time. Changing strategies too often resets progress. Evaluate thoughtfully. Adjust when necessary. Stay the course long enough to see results. As results begin to appear, discipline becomes easier. Effort feels rewarded. Confidence grows. Momentum builds. What once required force begins to feel natural. The most important commitment is not to a goal, but to the process. Goals can change. Processes build lives. When you commit to daily action, results become inevitable. Rebuilding in this way creates a foundation that lasts. Not built on excitement, not built on pressure, but built on consistency. This approach survives stress. It adapts to change. It continues through uncertainty. Time responds to effort. Give it something to work with. Each day of action compounds. Each week strengthens direction. Each month reveals progress. This is how rebuilding becomes real, not through sudden breakthroughs, but through steady movement. Stay committed. Keep acting. Let time do its work. Results will appear, not by chance, but by design. The rebuild does not end with a celebration or a clear finish line. It settles into your life quietly. One day, you wake up and notice your mind feels steadier. Another day, you realize you no longer react the way you used to. Then there comes a moment when you look at your life and recognize something important has changed. Not everything, but enough to know you are no longer the same person who started this journey. What you have done is not small. Taking responsibility, releasing old weight, changing habits, building skills, and staying consistent through doubt is not common behavior. Most people stay trapped in cycles because change asks more from them than they are willing to give. You chose differently. That choice matters more than any temporary result. There will still be challenges ahead. Rebuilding a life does not remove difficulty. It prepares you to handle it better. Strength is not the absence of struggle. Strength is the ability to stay steady when struggle appears. You now carry that ability in how you think, how you act, and how you respond. The future will test your standards. Old habits may try to return when life gets busy or stressful. That is normal. What matters is how quickly you correct course. Progress is not about never slipping. It is about refusing to stay down. Each return to discipline strengthens character. Remember that growth is personal. Your pace does not need to match anyone else's timeline. Comparison weakens focus. Direction strengthens it. Stay committed to your own process. The only person you need to outgrow is the version of you that once believed change was impossible. The life you are rebuilding is shaped in quiet moments, when no one is watching, when effort feels unnoticed, when consistency feels boring. These moments are not empty. They are full of purpose. They are building something solid beneath the surface. Confidence will continue to grow, not from words, but from proof. Each promise you keep to yourself adds weight to your belief. Each disciplined day strengthens self-respect. Over time, doubt loses its voice because action speaks louder. Stay grounded, stay patient, stay disciplined. Do not rush the process. Time rewards steady effort. The seeds you have planted will grow if you continue to care for them. Some results will show sooner than expected. Others will take longer. Both are valuable. Your future does not need to be loud to be powerful. It needs to be intentional. Direction matters more than speed. Consistency matters more than intensity. Character matters more than appearance. Carry this forward with calm confidence, not to prove anything to others, but to honor the work you have done. A rebuilt life is not perfect. It is purposeful. It moves forward even when conditions are not ideal. Keep going. Keep choosing growth. Keep honoring your standards. The life you are building is responding to every disciplined step. And one day, without announcement, you will realize that rebuilding is no longer what you are doing. It is who you have become.